Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens currently inked this week. I think let's go through these briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have a Majohn Titanium TI-136. We have a Montblanc Writer's Edition. This is the Petit Prince Aviator Solitaire Doué. We have a Montblanc Writer's Edition Jules Verne. We have a Montblanc Writer's Edition, and this is the Jane Austen. We have a Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in the silver. A Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in the gold. We have a classic pen CP5 made by Parker in the Centennial size, and this is called the Vintage. We have another classic pen CP5 made by Parker, and this is the Duofold size Centennial, and this is the Modern. We have a Parker Prestige Ruthenium Chisel, and we have a Conway Stewart Centenary made by Henry Simpole, the UK silversmith. So I think let's take a look at these pens inked up. This is the beautiful Majohn Titanium TI-136, and when I saw this I really liked the look of the Martelet from Montblanc, but it's about £2,000 or dollars, or more than dollars I think. So this is a Chinese made pen. It's not a cheap pen. It cost me about £137 I think, shipped from China through AliExpress. But it's actually a really nice pen. I love the gold accents on this. I love the hammered approach to this titanium. I want to say that this is hand done, but it could be done by machinery, I guess. It's quite uniform in pattern, so that's why I think it's maybe done by machinery. I'd like to maybe get a second one to actually compare it to see if it is identical or not. I ordered it with a medium nib. It comes with an extra fine, or a medium. This came with what they claim was a long blade, which is more of an architect. But it actually arrived with what was a Fude style turned up nib, which I have since ground into more of an architect nib. I'm loving the pen, and I would like to buy another one. I'd probably buy it from a different seller, because I went back and forth with this seller who didn't speak English, about 30 messages back and forth, and in the end they said that they would ship me another nib for $0.01 US, 1 cent. But I just didn't want to pay any more. I did get a fine nib with it. I could have put a fine nib in here, but I really wanted this a medium. So this is now a little bit more of a medium-ish architect nib, I would say. The next pen inked up is this one. It's a Montblanc Writer's Edition. It's the Le Petit Prince Aviator Solitaire Doué. I really love this pen. I love, this is I believe a platinum finish here on the body. And you've got the little print. Actually, you know what? I think this is the first time I've actually seen it. You've got the little prints there. But you've got the sand dunes here. I knew it was sand dunes, but I don't think I ever saw the prints there. And you've got this leather aviator style cap. You've got the plane there. You've got the planet. It really is a beautiful pen. I love writing with this. It's a 146 size pen. Like most writer's editions, you can't post the cap. You have a Le Petit Prince emblem on the nib there. It's a very heavy pen. It's quite back weighted in my hand like this because of that piston knob. It's a beautiful pen, and I absolutely love that I bought this. And I have to say, I am both glad and angered that a certain pen friend, Tony, you know who you are, got me into writing with Montblancs. I already had a 146 and a 149, and as much as I liked the 149, I just didn't write with it. The 146 was a double broad, and I definitely didn't write with that. but he has a lot of Montblancs, and he's convinced me to get into the writer's editions because he's into the writer's editions. And I have to say, I am loving the Montblanc writer's editions I have in my collection already. The next pen inked up is actually one I got from Tony, strangely enough. This is the Jules Verne, and this is one that out of all the Montblancs, was one that I really wanted. They always go for silly money, and I wasn't prepared to pay that, but this is a medium nib pen. Tony bought this as a medium, wanted a fine. He managed to buy a fine and was going to sell this. We exchanged in the end. I was going to buy the pen from him, but in the end, he said he would like a couple of my Visconti Millionaires, so I shipped those to him, and I got this pen, and I'm glad that I did. As much as I liked the Visconti Millionaires, I just didn't write with them more recently. It has a number 6 size nib. This is, because it's around 2003, I think. This is one of the few Montblanc writer's editions you can post the cap on. But the problem is it does grip onto the piston knob. So I do not like pens that post that grip onto the piston knob, because you end up turning. And on a lot of Montblancs, there is quite a bit of a, like, I'm not turning the piston here. It's quite a bit of slack on that piston knob. So if you're not careful, you can snap piston knobs off. I have a friend that had done that. I know of countless other people I've read or seen online that have done the same. So I'm always wary about posting caps. I'm not normally a cap poster, but I know a lot of people do like posting caps. So just be wary when you're posting caps that it is posting and gripping onto the body and not the piston knob, if it is a piston. If it's not a piston, it's a cartridge converter, then great. But a piston knob, you just need to be a little bit careful of. The next one here is the Montblanc Writer's Edition Jane Austen, or homage to Jane Austen. Beautiful pen. I'm really loving this. You can see in the size comparison here, it's a 149 size pen. It is big, it's chunky, it's heavy. Most of the weight is in that cap. I love the way that they've done this. I like the clip. I wasn't a fan of the clip to start with, but I've warmed up to that now. It's a beautiful pen, and I have to really take my hat off to Montblanc. They make beautiful pens, beautiful themed pens. This has Jane Austen's silhouette there on the nib. It's a number 6 size nib. Most of these Montblanc Writer's Editions come in a medium nib. I think you can get them in other nibs, but I think a lot of time you have to send it off to Montblanc to get a nib exchange. I think mediums are pretty much what most people go for. I know Goulet and others have said that that's, in terms of nib width sizes, that's normally I think the biggest selling nib is a medium. There is a bit of a step down here onto the threads. If you do like holding up higher, you might feel that a little bit. You can't post the cap on this, and you wouldn't want to, because I think 2/3 of the weight of that pen is in that cap. So it would be hugely back weighted if you were to be able to post that cap. Now, coming down to, strangely enough, what I considered in, I want to say it was a year ago, it's probably several years ago, that I didn't want anything shorter than a Parker, because a Parker is a short pen. It actually is not. When you compare it to like these 146 size pens, it's the same size. It's just that I see it in my pen tray here, and I'm used to having pens up here now. So I consider these being shorter pens. But I'm trying to recondition my thought process here. It's not shorter, or it's not short. It's actually a reasonably sized pen. And this is the Parker Duofold Godron in silver. I really like this. I saw the silver and the gold online, and I wanted both, and I bought these this summer. So this has a medium nib on it, which I think writes more like a fine. The Parkers you can post the cap on. So if you like Parkers, or if you like posting caps, definitely look at Parker's because it works out very well. They are cartridge converters. You don't get pistons, you don't get power vacs, but they are very good pens. The next pen inked up is, again, another Parker Duofold Centennial. This is a Godron in gold. Godron, if you don't know, is the sort of fluting of these channels here. It's a beautiful pen. You've got the arrow clip from Parker, which, interestingly enough, a lot of Chinese companies are now copying. I've got a number 6 size nib there as well, and this one is a fine cartridge converter again, and I can post the cap if I want to. Again, if you're a cap poster, Parkers are really good for posting caps, and I have to say it. Whether or not it's the lower edition IMs, the Sonnets, the Duofolds, you can post. I don't think I've ever seen a Parker that you cannot post the cap on. If any of you know of one, let me know, because I want to say that Parker, you can post the caps on all of their pens. But I don't have a huge amount of Parkers in comparison to other models or makes of pens, so I can't really substantiate that. But do let me know if you know of any Parkers that you cannot post the caps on, either modern or vintage. Now, in March this year, I picked up a set of classic pens CP5s, and this is how dangerous a pen show can be, because I was at the pen show, nothing was really speaking to me, and I met up with another pen friend, and I know a while back he had bought a set of CP5s, and I just happened to say to him, I remember, and I think I might even have it on video, I was at the Conway Stewart table, and I said to him, if you're ever willing to sell your CP5s, let me know. You know, you sort of plant a seed here or there. And he said, well, you do realise that John Foy at St John's Pens has got a set, but he wants an insane price for it. And I'm like, yep, I'm sure John does, because John's pens are like Sarge's, but a little bit more expensive. So they're not going to be cheap. Anyway, John and I are good friends, like Sarge and I are good friends. So towards the end of the show, I said to him, hey, look, have you still got those CP5s? Because I couldn't see them on his table because he's got so many pens. And he picked them up and put them in my hand. I was sitting behind his table at the time, helping him out. And I want to say I actually held on to them for 30 minutes, and I ended up buying the set, obviously, because I got 2 here. So this is the vintage version of the CP5. It's made by Parker. You've got a Parker Arrow nib there. It's a medium nib. They are cartridge converters. You can post the cap again. See, Parkers, you can just post those caps. It is sterling silver, so it is weighty. It's a lot more weightier than the Godrons. I kind of wish the Godrons were a little bit more heavier. And I want to say, it's probably a good 30% more heavier. But I love those CP5s, and I like the vintage maybe a little bit more than the modern. I think just because of the pattern. This is the modern version of the classic pen CP5, made by Parker for Lambrou or classic pens, and this is the modern one. So it's a little bit more of a diamond cut guilloche on this one. You've got the arrow clip as well, and again you've got a number 6 size Parker nib there, arrow nib, medium nib, cartridge converter, and again you can post a cap. These CP5s, because they're very thick sterling silver, they are very back weighted, because those caps weigh, I want to say, a good almost similar weight to what the body weighs. But because the section is plastic, it's probably, I think the cap is lighter, but because the section is plastic, you've got more weight on the back end. So although you can post Parkers, I wouldn't want to post these, because I think you're going to be fighting with keeping that nib on the page. And maybe that's what would be useful to me, because I always think myself as a light writer. However, if I were to write with a pencil and sharpen a pencil, I will break that lead, definitely, several times. So I'm not as a light writer than I think I am. So if I had to force myself to try and balance that pen back onto the page, that might actually help me be a little bit more lighter. I don't know. I'm not going to write with it because it is too back weighted, but it's just a thought. The next pen is a Parker Prestige, or Parker Duofold Prestige, a Ruthenium chisel, and I still think that this is there's only one of these, one model, the chisel Ruthenium. I don't think they do it in other colours. If they do, I've not seen them. They must be fairly rare. Wanted this for about a year. Finally got one. A UK seller. There's a lot in Japan. It's a fine nib there. Number 6 size Parker spade nib. Cartridge converter, and like all Parkers, you can post the cap. There you go. I wouldn't really want to post it. There's the sort of, you're going to mark that blind cap eventually if you're not careful. So I think there's a number of pitfalls for posting caps, and one of them is if it posts onto a piston, I would say it's not a good reason to post. And likewise, if you've got metal there on the back, even if it's plastic threads in the cap, you're still going to get micro scratches probably on that metal over time. The last pen inked up is the Conway Stewart Centenary. This overlay or filigree is made by sadly the deceased Henry Simpole. He liked putting a lot of things into the pattern here, and I'm trying to find new things in this pattern. I know that you've got like a swirly C here and a swirly S for Conway Stewart, and I think I've seen before, there is also, I want to say these looks like zeros here, that you have a 100 for Centenary, and I'm trying to find it, and I'm just not finding it. I don't know. I remember seeing a 100 here somewhere, and I'm lost. I just can't find it. So that's a shame, but I'm sure I'll find it after I've recorded this video. But it's a beautiful pen, and Henry Simpole passed away in 2020. It's a Conway Stewart nib, number 6 size, broad nib. I didn't have the option. These are long sold out, and I bought this from a seller that bought a bunch of these from Conway Stewart at the time from the factory. It's held on to them for effectively 20 years. I want to say, is it 20 years? I'm trying to think of the actual. It's a 100-year centenary, and it was, I want to say early 2000s. So it probably was 15 to 20 years. You can post the cap there, and that does post very deeply and securely. It is a cartridge converter. When I reviewed this, I had a very weird cartridge converter in, which leaked. I now have a proper Schmidt converter, still getting ink here though, which is interesting. I don't know why, but it is leaking a little bit, which is a shame. I don't know why. I might need to investigate that a little bit more, but I love writing with this pen. It's a beauty, and I'm very glad that I managed to pick up a Henry Simpole pen. So there you have it. That's my Coney ink for this week. I think let's now go and do a writing sample. So the first pen inked up is the Majohn Titanium TI 136, and we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is a nib that I ground down myself from effectively what was more of a food aid to an architect. So this is the Majohn TI 136. I'm going to say this is more of a medium nib, but it's a still nib, but it's a little bit more of an architect. And I'll show you here, you've got the thin vertical lines and you've got thicker horizontal lines. The ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey. I do like the way architect nibs write. I just didn't like having a Fude nib. Fude is not for me. I've tried a Sailor Fude nib and I just couldn't. It was a cheap £15 version that you can get. I can't remember the name of it exactly, but I bought it because it was cheap and I just wanted to experiment, and it was a really big Fude nib and I just wasn't a fan of it. So it's just not for me, unfortunately. But that nib now that I've ground it, I really like. The next pen inked up is the Montblanc Le Petit Prince Aviator, and we'll do an ink swatch here. This is a very beautiful writing nib. I've really changed my opinion of Montblancs. I always thought, because I had I still have a 149 and a 146. 149 nib right nice. The 146 didn't in the double broad, and I just assumed that all Montblancs would write not as good, but they really do write more so better than I thought. So this is the Montblanc Le Petit Prince. I'm going to abbreviate this because I'm not going to get it all on there because it's a very long name. The Le Petit Prince Aviator. It is a Solitaire Doué. It's a writer's edition. It's a medium and it's an 18-karat gold nib. And I bought this one from Roy Izod's, actually. Very lucky, managed to pounce on that one when I did. And I'm just trying to think, he had, I think, 4 of these available. He had one and it sold. He had another one and it sold. And then the next one, I think, was the one that I looked at. And I messaged him and said, what is the deal with this? Because, like, I've seen this up for sale twice now. This is the 3rd time. Is this the same pen? Is somebody returning it? And he said, oh, no. He said, I just managed to get hold of more of them. So I was like, right, okay, I'm buying this. And I did. And then another one came up and then that sold as well. So the ink in here is KWZ, and it's Newquay Brown, or Newcastle Brown, as in Newcastle Brown Ale. It's a UK Pen Show exclusive. It was made for the Newcastle Pen Show, although you can still buy this at the London Pen Show. You can normally find it on a number of tables like John Twist, sometimes on the entrance table as well. It's a nice ink. I've got a number of those bottles. The next pen inked up is the Montblanc Writer's Edition Jules Verne. And this was second hand when I bought it. The Le Petit Prince was new. It wasn't inked. This one came from Tony, a friend. So this is the Montblanc Writer's Edition, and it's the Jules Verne. Jules Verne. And it's a medium 18-karat gold nib. And the ink in here is Waterman Inspired Blue. And I keep wanting to put a darker blue in the pen to match more with this pen. However, I don't think I have a nicer writing blue ink. So I think maybe there is Diamine China Blue I could put in there. But I just love seeing that ink in that pen. So I'm more than happy to keep that one in that pen and not change the ink. The next pen is the Montblanc Writer's Edition Jane Austen. Again, pen that I really love writing with. These Montblanc nibs do really write well. You do pay a lot for these Montblanc writer's editions. They are not cheap. So this is the Montblanc Writer's Edition, Jane Austen. And it's a medium, and it's an 18 cat gold nib. And the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Aji Sei, which for me, it doesn't quite match with the colour of the cap. It's more of a bluey green or greeny blue, or bluey grey maybe, but I do like, again, that ink inked up. The next pen inked up is the Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in silver. So we'll do an ink swatch here, and this is a very nice writing nib. Now, I do just want to check my ink database on this one, because I don't think this is Diamine Earl Grey, but I'm just going to check. I might be wrong, but I have a feeling it's not Diamine Earl Grey, and that's what I think it's inked up with. So the Godron in silver is inked up with, you're not going to believe this, Diamine Earl Grey. That's a lot darker than that Diamine Earl Grey. So this is the Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in silver. It is a medium, and it's an 18 cat gold nib. And as I just mentioned, it's Diamine Earl Grey, which that really did stump me, because I thought that might be Diamine Graphite or KWZ Grey Lux, but no, it is Diamine Earl Grey. The next pen inked up is another Parker Duofold Centennial in the Godron, and this is in the gold, and I am just looking. Yeah, I know what that is inked up with. So we'll do an ink swatch. Now, I think I've not written with this much this week, and these Parkers do tend to dry out a bit. I've got almost a full converter there. So I'm just priming that converter a little bit in the hope that that will jump start it off. I think I might need to jump start it a little bit more though. So this is hopefully going to write a little bit better now. I've dipped it in a little glass of water, or a little bottle of water, and that typically helps the capillary action to get started. So this is the Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in gold. Now this is, strange enough, I now have, I'm trying to read the feed, and it is a fine nib. So this does write a little bit more finer than the medium there, which you can see. And the ink in here is Ackerman SBRE Brown, which is a nice brown ink. Used to be one of my favourite browns. I typically now go towards Nuki Brown or Diamine Ochre, just because it's easier to get hold of, or I have multiple bottles. The next pen inked up is the Classic Pen CP5 in the vintage. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, this I find is, I find this with a lot of Parker nibs, that they are fairly rigid nibs, stiff nibs. This is a medium nib, so it's the classic pens. CP5 in the vintage. And it's a medium 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is KWZ Old Smoke, which hopefully you can see here is a little bit different than the Diamond Earl Grey as I normally would see it, although it's certainly, I'd say it's a little bit darker than, it's probably in between the Diamond Earl Grey there and this Diamond Earl Grey, but it's a nice colour. The next pen is a classic pen, CP5 in the modern. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I am going to need to look up this ink because I'm not sure what that one is. I'll tell you in a moment what I think it is, and then we'll find out if it really is. So this is classic pens, CP5 in the modern, and it's a medium and it's an 18 karat gold nib. Now, ink wise, I think that is either Diamond Graphite or KWZ Grey Lux. So let's have a look. Let's see what this one is. Are you kidding me? Right, that's it. This is Diamond. Yeah. You thought it was graphite. No, it's Earl Grey tea. Oh, whenever I see a dark grey ink, I always think Diamond Graphite or KWZ Grey Lux. But this here is way darker than this, which is way darker than this. Like, you kind of wonder how that is possible, but it's down to the way the nib's right, unfortunately, or fortunately actually, that you can get the same ink from the same bottle in 3 different pens, and it looks entirely different. So when you go online and you buy an ink and it arrives, and then you try it and you think that's not the colour that I saw online, try it in another pen, because it might be your pen and you might find it more closer to that colour when you put it in a different pen. The next pen inked up is the Parker Duofold Prestige Ruthenium Chisel. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is a fine nib. And typically I do find Diamond Earl Grey to be a little bit more finer in these lighter or narrower nibs, and this is a fine nib. So this is the Parker Duofold Prestige, and it's the Ruthenium Chisel, and it's a fine nib. Yeah, it's a fine nib. 18 karat gold, and the ink in here is Diamond Earl Grey. So you can see now, side by side, 2 different pens, how that Diamond Earl Grey looks. Hugely different. And then the last pen is the Conway Stewart Centenary, made by Henry Simpole. So we'll do an ink swatch here. But this is a super wet, broad nib. A great nib for writing your signature with. So this is the Conway Stewart Centenary in a broad 18 karat gold nib. And the ink in here is KWZ Grey Lux, which is a very dark grey ink, almost black ink. So I think let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. We have a Majohn Titanium T136 in a medium steel nib, inked up with Diamond Earl Grey. We have a Montblanc Le Petit Prince Aviator in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Nuki Brown. We have a Montblanc Writer's Edition Jules Verne in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with Waterman Inspired Blue. We have a Montblanc Writer's Edition Jane Austen in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with Pilot Washizuku Aji Sei. We have a Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in silver in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Parker Duofold Centennial Godron in gold in a fine 18 karat gold nib inked up with Ackerman SBRE Brown. We have a Classic Pen CP5 Vintage in a medium 18 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Old Smoke. We have a Classic Pen CP5 Modern in the 18 karat gold nib inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Parker Duofold Prestige Ruthenium Chisel in a fine 18 karat gold nib inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. And then we have a Conway Stewart Centenary in a broad 18 karat gold nib inked up with KWZ Grey Lux. So there you have it. That's my 10 pens currently inked for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye-bye.